week 2 of the fantasy baseball season, and here's a few hitters I looked at off the wall this week. The first hitter, Orlando Arcia of the Atlanta Braves. So Arcia All-Star last season for the Atlanta Braves, and this Brave team we know is one of the best, if not the best, lineups in all Major League Baseball. And so far, Arcia, he's picked up where he left off last season for the most part. So far in the year, for Arcia, he's gone out there and he's put up some big numbers in terms of batting average and getting on base for this Atlanta Brave team. So on the year, 12 for 31 is Arcia. 3 runs scored, 2 RBIs, a 390 batting average, and a 433 on base. So Arcia right now available in tons of fantasy leagues at 82%. And he's a guy that's going to hit the baseball and get on base and score runs for this Brave team, because we know this Brave team's a powerhouse with many great hitters: Austin Riley, Ronald Acuna, Matt Olson, Ozzie Albies, Marcell Ozuna, Michael Harris, and he's going to get opportunities to score a lot. I know he bats 7th or 8th in the lineup for this Atlanta Brave team, but like I said, he's getting a lot of good pitches to hit, and he's going to score runs. If you need batting average and runs scored, that's what Arcia is going to bring, and he did have some pop last season with 17 home runs as well. April 1st at Chicago, 1 for 4 with 2 RBIs. April 2nd at the White Sox, 2 for 4. April 5th versus Arizona, 2 for 4 with a run. April 6th versus Arizona, 0 for 4. And April 7th versus the D-backs, 1 for 3. So right now, while he's out there in a good amount of fantasy leagues, and like I said, if you need that batting average and run scored, he's going to bring it for fantasy owners and some pop as well. The next ad, Jose Siri of the Tampa Bay Rays. So Siri, he's getting everyday playing time for this Tampa Bay Rays team with a lot of injuries. And I know so far the batting average isn't up to par, but stolen bases and on-base percentage is what he's going to bring fantasy owners. Available right now still in 59% of leagues. On the home run, 3 RBIs, 6 stolen bases, a 214 average, and a 389 on-base percentage. So like I said, stolen bases, runs, and on base is what Jose Siri is going to bring for the most part for fantasy owners. Last season, though, he did show good power with the 25 home runs. April 2nd versus Texas, 0 for 4. April 3rd versus Texas, 1 for 3. April 5th at the Rockies, 0 for 2 with a run and a bag. April 6th at the Rockies, 0 for 2 with 2 stolen bases. And April 7th at the Rockies, 2 for 4 with an RBI. So like I said, he's playing every day is Jose Siri. And if you just want that stolen bases and some power, he's going to bring that to fantasy owners. So right now, well, he's out there in 59% of fantasy leagues, and he's getting everyday playing time in a good hitter's ballpark. He's a good ad this week. Next ad, Charlie Blackmon of the Colorado Rockies. So Blackmon, surprisingly, I didn't expect him to be owned in a crazy amount of fantasy leagues, but still out there in 86% of fantasy leagues. So Blackmon on the season, no home runs, 5 RBIs, 3 runs scored, a stolen base, a 320 batting average, and a 333 on base percentage. So Blackmon, we know, has got some decent pop. I know last season he did miss half of the year pretty much with injury, and his better years are behind him, but he still could bring batting average. He still could bring runs scored, and a guy who's always been a good on-base player as well. So the last few games for Blackmon, April 3rd at the Cubs, 3 for 5, a run, 2 RBIs. April 5th versus Tampa, 0 for 4. April 6th versus Tampa, 1 for 5. And April 7th versus the Rays, 0 for 3. So like I said, Blackmon, the power has definitely gone down over the last few seasons. He's in the latter part of his career, but he still could steal some bases for you, score runs, and has a good on-base percentage. So if you're in deeper leagues, 4 or 5 outfield leagues, or have many utility players, I think Blackmon can help in that aspect for fantasy owners. And also as well, we know he plays in a great hitter's ballpark in Coors Field. The next ad is Michael Busch of the Chicago Cubs. So a former top prospect in the Los Angeles Dodgers system is Michael Busch, and this Cub team got him in a pretty good deal in the offseason, I thought. On the year, 4 runs scored, a 323 batting average, and a 383 on base percentage. So Busch, he qualifies at first and third base for the Chicago Cub team. He's getting that every day at bats, obviously, and he's just a hit machine. We saw him do it in the minors. He was a top prospect for a reason for Los Angeles. Obviously, they had nowhere to put him with all the acquisitions over the last few seasons and moving Mookie Betts to the shortstop and second base position at times. So right now, Busch, he's gone out there with opportunity for this Cub team, and he's played well. April 3rd versus the Rockies, 3 for 3, a run and a rib. April 5th versus the Dodgers, 1 for 3, 2 runs, a homer, and an RBI. April 6th versus the Dodgers, 1 for 4. And April 7th in that one, 1 for 4 with 3 RBIs versus former teams for the Dodgers. So he had a nice 3-game set versus former team as Michael Busch. And like I said, getting everyday opportunity. Pretty good to hit his ballpark in Wrigley Field, especially in the summer where that ball really carries out. And right now available in 86% of fantasy leagues with good versatility as well. The next hitter is Brandon Donovan, the St. Louis Cardinals. You want to talk about versatility. Donovan, he's a guy that pretty much plays everywhere for this Cardinal team. And for fantasy baseball, qualifies at first, second, and outfield. So on the season for Donovan, 1 home run, 6 RBIs, 7 runs scored, a .335 batting average, and a whopping .462 on base percentage. So Donovan, like I said, he's not going to bring power. Stolen bases, runs scored, and so far he's off to a sizzling start. But he's always been a pretty good on base percentage type of guy, is Brendan Donovan. So right now he's batting first and the table setter for this Cardinal team. Well, we know this Cardinal team, they got some good hitters still in this lineup. Jordan Walker, obviously Paul Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado, Nolan Gorman. So Brendan Donovan, the table setter, and he's going to score his runs and get on base. April 2nd at San Diego, 2 for 4 with 2 runs. April 3rd at the Padres, 1 for 4. April 6th versus the Marlins, 2 for 3, a run. And April 7th versus Miami, 0 for 3. So right now, well, he's playing every day. And like I said, very versatile for fantasy baseball. First, second, and outfield, especially second base, one of the weaker positions in fantasy. He's a good ad. This week, the next ad is Jackson Merrill, the top prospects in the league and for the San Diego Padre team. So Jackson Merrill, shortstop and outfield, and we know plays center field for the San Diego Padre team. And so far in the year, for Merrill, a little bit of a slow start, but his last ball game yesterday, 4 for 4 in that one. So on the season, for Merrill, .270 batting average, .340 on base percentage, 1 home run, 2 RBIs, and 8 runs scored. So like I said, a top prospect in this system, made the roster opening day. I know he had to move position. Obviously, Kim at the shortstop position, and also as well, Xander Bogaerts, who's played there his whole career till this year. So on the game for Merrill, April 2nd versus St. Louis, 1 for 4. April 5th at the Giants, 1 for 3, a run. April 6th at the Giants, 0 for 2. And April 7th at the Giants, 4 for 4 with a stolen base. So like I said, Merrill, it's going to take some time for him to really get things going. But after coming off a 4 for 4 game, this kid's a former top prospect for a reason. I know not every former top prospect pans out, but right now he's getting everyday opportunity. Going to take him a little bit, obviously, with the new position in the outfield as well, where he was a shortstop in the minor leagues. But if you need hitting and a guy still qualifies at shortstop, which is, well, one of the weaker positions in the league, I think Merrill's a good ad this week, and he's available right now in 62% of fantasy leagues. The next ad is Michael Taylor of the Pittsburgh Pirates. Taylor, he was a late spring training signing for this Pittsburgh Pirate team, and he's a player we know that's had some pop and stolen base prowess throughout his career. So right now, Taylor's still out there in tons of fantasy leagues at 86% on the year for Taylor. No home runs, 6 RBIs, 7 runs scored, a stolen base, a whopping .429 batting average, and a .438 on base. Obviously, right now, that batting average is a total fluke, only 28 at-bats on the season. But last season, like I said, he brought some pop, 21 homers, 51 ribs, 13 stolen bases, but obviously a .220 average and a .278 on base. So Taylor is not really a hitter that works the count a lot, and more of a hitter who's a free swinger. But like I said, he's got good power, but he's going to strike out a lot as well. But off to a sizzling start for this Pirate team. April 1st at the Nats, one of his former teams, 3 for 4, 2 runs, an RBI. April 3rd at the Nats, 1 for 4, 2 ribs. April 4th at the Nats, 3 for 4, run. And April 5th versus Baltimore, 0 for 3, and he sat out April 6th and 7th ball game, is Michael Taylor. So Michael Taylor, for the most part, he's going to verse a lot of lefties, and he didn't have a full spring training where they're still easing him along. But right now, well, he's batting over 400 and hitting the laces off the baseball, is Michael Taylor. He's definitely a hitter I would look to add in the deeper leagues, and someone who last season actually had some pop, and the playing time, I believe, will go up as the season goes on for him for this Pirate team. The next ad is his teammate Connor Joe of the Pittsburgh Pirates. So Connor Joe, last season, he had some early fantasy value, and now this year, once again, he was barely drafted in any fantasy leagues, is Connor Joe. So Connor Joe, we know he's a batting average type of player. He'll show some pop occasionally as well. Last season, 11 homers, 42 ribs. But this year, off to the good start. Like I said, 1 home run, 7 RBIs, 10 runs scored already, a stolen base, a .312 batting average, and a .423 on base percentage. So Connor Joe available still widely in a lot of fantasy leagues at 76%. And like I said, he's a guy that's got power. He's going to score some runs. And his batting average throughout his career, for the most part, has been pretty decent. Even though I know last season only .247, but he's going to get on base the last few games for Connor Joe. April 1st at Washington, 2 for 4, run, 2 ribs. April 4th at the Nats, 1 for 3, a homer, 2 RBIs, 2 runs scored. April 6th versus Baltimore, 1 for 5 with his bag. And April 7th versus Baltimore for 3 with a run. So he's more of a deeper league ad as well, is Connor Joe. But he's going out there, he's hitting the baseball pretty good for this Pirate team that's surprisingly off to a great start. And also as well, he qualifies at first and outfield, pretty solid versatility. So right now, while he's playing good baseball, he's a good ad this week. But like I said, I don't think it's going to keep up all season for Connor Joe, but still someone that I believe can help fantasy owners over the next couple weeks. Next ad's Jose Caballero of the Tampa Bay Rays. So Caballero, he's one of these guys that they found out of nowhere pretty much. He's going to steal bases. We saw last season 26 stolen bases for him with the Mariners. And so far this season, 4 runs scored, no home runs, 3 RBIs, 4 stolen bases, a 300 batting average, and a 326 on-base percentage. So Caballero, he qualifies at second and shortstop, which are 2 weak positions in fantasy baseball. If you need strictly stolen bases and runs scored, that's what he's going to bring. He's not going to show power. He's not going to drive in a lot of runs. But runs scored and stolen bases is a specialty. April 3rd versus Texas, 1 for 4 with a bag. April 5th at the Rockies, 1 for 4 with a stolen base. And April 7th at the Rockies, 1 for 4 with a run. So like I said, you're not going to get much. He's more of the old school type of second and shortstop type of player, pesky type of player. He's going to have some speed, and a good defender is Caballero. So right now, while he's out there in tons of fantasy leagues at 88%, I think he can help fantasy owners in those lower type of categories, and they all count, especially in head-to-head category leagues and even point leagues. You could get the cheap points with the stolen bases and the run scores and the walks. So we give them there this week. And the final hitter, I looked at off the Warriors, Brett Beatty of the New York Mets, a former top prospect in the system for the New York Mets is Brett Beatty. And I know the last couple of years it really hasn't looked good for him, but so far this year he's off to a good start. 1 home run, 5 RBIs, 3 runs scored, a 290 batting average, and a 358 on-base percentage. Beatty, the everyday third baseman for this New York Met team. And his defense has definitely improved. Now it's about getting the hitting going, and we saw him earlier last week get a pinch hit 3-run homer in that ball game. So April 4th versus Detroit in a doubleheader, 1 for 6 with a run, a RBI. April 5th at Cincinnati, 2 for 4. April 6th at the Reds, 2 for 5 with a run and RBI. And April 7th at the Reds, 1 for 4. So Beatty right now batting 4th or 5th for this New York Met team. Protection for Pete Alonso. And now with JD Martinez, no timetable. If he's got soreness and not doing well in the minor leagues until they call him up after obviously the Mets signed him a few days before the season started, Brett Beatty's going to get an opportunity to have a decent spot in the lineup 4th or 5th, like I mentioned. So right now, while he's playing some decent baseball, even though I don't think Brett Beatty is going to live up to full potential as a top prospect like he was in the minor leagues and even tearing it up down there, he's still a hitter I would add this week, and he's available in 92% of fantasy leagues. So that's a few hitters I look to add for week 2 of the fantasy baseball season.